Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, entitled neighbor took my mother FO court to get primary custody of my mother's dog. Kid just found an autographed baseball. Police question me about being in a park. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled neighbor took my mother FO court to get primary custody of my mother's dog. When my mother and her dog moved next door to entitled neighbor, they fell in love with my mother's dog, Max. For in about 2 years would come get Max for visits. Would watch Max if my mother went out of town, or just so they could play with him. Moved across town and would still call to ask for Max visits. My mother started letting the dog go less and less, but would say yes now and again because for pleading. Just before one of the arranged visits, Max got into a fight with another dog. Max seemed to be okay. When came, my mother said she was worried about letting him go because of the dog fight. Promises that she would look after Max and make sure he was okay. The next day called my mother and told her that she took Max to the vet because he had a wound on his neck. Also told my mother that she was keeping Max because my mother neglected the dog. My mother was devastated. My mother called the police. They couldn't help because she had agreed to allow the dog to go with My mother had to file a civil complaint. It took 2 months to go to court. Told the judge that she and my mother had always shared custody of the dog and that was the most fit dog parent, so should have the dog. The judge explained that Max was my mother's possession and that was to return him immediately. He also said was responsible for the vet bill and no, my mother did not have to give visitation. Now I don't condone violence, however, if someone took my dog, they would most definitely get a chair to the face. I'm glad your mom got her dog back. You kidnap someone's family and all you get is a chair to the face? I would consider that getting off easy. My puppies are family and I'd crawl to the ends of the earth on broken glass for them. It's so weird that people do this to people's pets. Like, borrow a pet? What? It happened to my family. We had a dog and my mom's friend loved our dog. My mom loved the dog, too. Used to call him her son. Her friend would regularly take the dog for overnight visits and pamper him. So weird. Well, one day my mom and her friend had a falling out. Shouldn't affect anything with the dog, right? Nope. This is my insane mother. She instantly loathed our dog. She refused to have anything to do with the dog and refused to acknowledge that she ever loved the dog. Now the dog was a burden that was imposed upon us by outside forces. My mother is bonkers. Now, mind you, I was quite young, so don't get on my case. That dog's life just sucked from a lack of affection from then on. He was fed handmade food, too, and walked, and that was it. Poor dog. I tried bonding, but it just never worked with us for some reason. My mother and grandmother spent the rest of the dog's life saying how much they hated him, but they also refused to allow him to be adopted. A family friend had an awesome dog. He needed surgery and about 3 months in rehab afterwards, so he had a friend of his babysit his dog. After he recovered, the family refused to give the dog back. They said their kids bonded with the dog, so it would be unfair to take the dog away from them. WTF. They knew they were just babysitting. Why in the world would they think it's okay to just keep the dog? I'm still furious about it, even though the dog's been dead 3 times over at this point. Was this California? This sounds like California. Or Florida. Oh my lord, if someone stole my dog like that, there would be hell to pay. I would literally use every legal way of making that person's life hell until I got my boy back. This would have been a fun Judge Judy EP. Some people are cray. if she'd explained to the police that Ian had broke the terms of their arrangement by refusing to return Max, the police should have done something? I'm mad at the police as well as Ian for the way this went down. Kid just found an autographed baseball. I took my 12-year-old daughter to a minor league baseball game. Before the game, she met several players and got their autographs on a ball. They were signing for everyone, so numerous kids got the same thing. Later in the game, we got up to get food, and I told my daughter the ball would be safe tucked inside our stuff left under the seat. No one else was sitting near us, and I've left stuff like that before many times. A couple innings after we returned, my daughter noticed her ball was missing. I looked around and saw a kid 2 rows behind us holding 2 autographed balls. One of them had red signatures on it, and we were the only ones I saw with a red marker. I got up and made my way back to him and said, "Excuse me," and the dad immediately said, "Oh, he found this," and the kid handed it back to me. I hadn't even asked for the ball back, so they made it obvious they knew what they had done. Mind you, the kid already had his own signed ball. Nice job by the dad raising a thief. It was definitely the dad's idea. Scum raise scum. Yup, unfortunately I've seen that before. And some of the kids raised by scum don't outgrow it and take it into their late 40s, still side by side with the scum dad, who's almost 80. I'll bet dad told the kid to say I was just kidding / it was just a joke when they got caught. Why would you leave anything unattended in a public venue? That's just asking for trouble. Had this happened to my girlfriend and I at an Astros game last week. They were giving out replica World Series rings, and it was a weekday game, so most people got them. Put them underneath my seat towards the back so people walking past wouldn't damage them. After a few innings of people walking past, had an aisle seat, I feel my leg kick something rather large and look down to see a dirty nacho plate. I instantly start looking underneath my girlfriend's seat and ask if she's seen where the rings went. She says no, so I turn around, and before I can ask, the guy behind me reaches into his bag and hands my rings back. This MF had reached down behind my seat to grab out rings and replaced them with his empty nacho plate. This isn't some easy thing to do either, as you have to stretch for it. Plot twist. The dad made the kid go get it out of the bag because he wanted it. Funny story, happened in left field at PNC Park, just a typical weekday evening game. Light attendance, but we're sitting a section with a high probability of foul balls. So foul ball comes into our section, kids scrambling for it, the usual chaos. Grown-ass 50-plus-year-old guy goes dashing for it, brushing past the kids. So the idiot dives for the ball, he gets a hold of it behind a seat. In the seat is a 15 to 18-year-old girl sitting next to her father. He had buried his face into her lap to get the ball behind the seat. Father stands up, obviously upset, guy slinks back to his seat next to, I assume, his wife. She's visibly livid. That father showed a whole lot of restraint. The guy and his wife left soon after. Not sure what happened to the ball. Funny memory though. I went to a Pirates game last year on one of their bobblehead nights. I stowed it under my seat as usual. I didn't leave my seat all game, but when we got up to leave I went to grab it and it was gone. Somehow, the person sitting behind me was able to reach down and grab it without me or my dad noticing. The row behind us was full, so someone had to have seen it, but they chose to say nothing. Police questioned me about being in a park. Okay, so as the summer winds down, I figured I would take the kids to the park a few times before school started up again. My wife and I took the kids, and while the kids were playing I got a call from work. I stepped away to take the call. There is a 4-foot fence that goes around the play area, so I walked over to it and leaned on it while I talked with the boss. He wanted me to work on my day off. I ended up not taking him up on it as he wanted me to work that day and take a different day off that week. That's a no-go. I called my shop steward and asked what he thought. While on the phone with my steward, 2 officers approached me and tried to get my attention. I told them I am on the phone and continued my conversation. They got very annoyed, but I didn't care. When I was done, I asked them what they wanted, and they said they received a complaint about a creepy man in the park staring at children. I said, and I quote, "So you're calling me a creep now, fuck off?" I went back to my family. They stood there dumbfounded for a minute before walked off. Now I know I am going to be called the entitled person, and to the bootlickers. May that boot taste good when they start questioning you. I live near a park, and some parents are quick to assume a single male at the park is a predator. Typical park busybodies. I was shepherding my sons and their friend at the park when one of them tried asking their friend if I was his dad. He got worried about a stranger trying to talk to him, and he ran and hid behind me. She was trying to imply I was stranger, but I told her that she was the creepy person that scared a kid. Not every man who plays with a child that's not their own is a pedo. Some people are just nice. It's baffling to me that pedo is the first thought so many people have with men being around children. They are projecting their own horrible thoughts. It definitely complicates my work as a professional. I can never let my guard down. I must always keep in consideration how it might look. Feckin' hate when people make calls like that, wasting the cops' time and yours. I feel after the viral video years ago of the guy asking parents if he could do an experiment to see if their kids would go with him and kidnap the kids by saying things like, "I have a puppy at home, I have this at home, you want to come with me to do this?" And the kids just left with a stranger. I feel people are way more protective. Which is good. But why would you be on the phone then and not hyper-focusing like a creeper does? Just recently, a busybody neighbor called the police on my kids and their friends climbing trees in their own yard. The wife was nonplussed. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.